Good evening and welcome to the Bambai Project's Hope Building Workshop. And my name is Suli Mngadi, and I'm one of the Bambai Project's interns. All right, so when you hear the word hope, I wonder how you respond. Our country is messy at the moment. In fact, our world is messy. We can find that hurt starts replacing hope. Indifference starts replacing passion. It's not a very good place to be. Tonight, I want to invite you to close your eyes for a moment. Imagine the room is pitch black, and then a candle is lit. Its flame radiates, pushing back the darkness. You can now open your eyes. Desmond Tutu once said, "Hope is being able to see that there is light despite all of the darkness." We believe that hope shines brightest when surrounded by uncertainty, darkness, and mess. Tonight, we invite you to join us on a journey to see that hope and look at how we can be part of building that hope that builds the future. Real, tangible, messy hope. We have a whole team tonight, but I will begin by handing over to Mendy. Please give her a round of applause.
Evening, everyone. Thank you, Tuli. Why don't you turn to the person next to you and say, greet them in a different language, not your own. I wonder how many different languages we have. Oh, there was konnichiwa over there and a few others. But as I look out tonight, I just see this wonderful array of different people. And everyone comes from different perspectives. And I think that's an incredible thing. And we want to honor you and where you're at the moment. And so in front of you, just as we start, to allow you a chance to reflect, are two little questions. Under your bottoms, okay. Under your bottoms, please. How do you feel about the materially poor people at the moment in South Africa, and about giving and helping? And then if I gave you 10 million rand, I don't know from where, but yeah, if I gave you 10 million rand to spend on giving to those in need, what would you do with it? Okay, so just, you've got pens, just jot down your answers. Okay, it's just for you. Nobody's going to ask you anything about it. So I'm sure when some of you looked at that first question, that there was that feeling of being overwhelmed, because we all know that the need in our country at the moment is really, really hectic. More than half of our country now are below the poverty line, more than 30 million people, which is absolutely incredible. There are over 3 million orphans in our country, and we have the worst income inequality in the world. And we know these situations, we know these stats because we see them every day. When we go to the shops, we encounter people in need, and it can be really overwhelming. And I think many generous givers have given up. I think the July riots have resulted in many closing that book of hope. So tonight, it's not about making anyone feel guilty. It's not about creating this to-do list that you have to do to be a good South African. But for us, we want to open that book of hope again. For us, it's about implanting that spark. And we just really pray that it would be that for you tonight, that you would go away with a sense of hope for our country, and that we can make a difference. But I want to start tonight by celebrating the hope bearers, and I'm looking at a hang of a lot of them as I look around this room. And there's some who have been with the Mumbai Project for 15 years. So I was going to put photos up, but you probably wouldn't recognize them, myself included, older and grayer and wiser, we hope. And there's so many here who've journeyed with children. Some are now young adults. They've got grey hairs, some of them as a result of that. Some of them are grandparents, well, figuratively, through their children. And there's some who, through their time, talents, and treasure, behind the scenes, have just had such an incredible impact on building hope. Staff who you'll hear tonight, that's from generous giving, that their work is enabled, and that's just amazing. But it's also, there's so many others, as I look out, that are hope bearers in so many other ways. that are, whether in their environments, individuals around them, different individuals outside of Bambai. I look at Tanya with the Angel Network. I know that there are many others. Trish and Sharon are here tonight in terms of Bulwer. And there are a number of other individuals here who are passionate. Gugu, where's Gugu? I think Gugu's, my contact lenses weren't working, so if I look vague, it's like, okay, I see that hand. Gugu is amazing. She runs the Gale course. You'll hear more about her later. But there's so many, and I just, I'm just mindful of that. And I want to say thank you to everyone, but also to those who sit here and think, well, I'm not really a bearer of hope. And I want to say that you're here, and I want to thank you for that, because that speaks volumes. And you may have more questions than answers, but it's about the journey. So really wanting to thank everyone and celebrate that. But I also want to celebrate those that aren't here. And I think that's really good to do, because it's those that we don't really see, but there's so much happening that you don't realize. I'll give a few examples, but I could carry on all night. So Mama Figile, she was really abused. She had no one to turn to when she was young. And so now all of these people of the goodness of their heart, don't get paid a cent for it. She's like the counselor to the whole of Bambai. She has kids. That's her passion, because she didn't have that herself. And so now she just welcomes people into her home. She has people living in her home. And there are many others like her. Baba Nshingile, he's got this passion for families. And so he is doing marriage courses, parenting courses. He teaches, you'll hear about later, our young men about honoring women, about helping in the home. They had to learn how to wash dishes, because it's a new experience for, well, maybe other men too, but in Bambai it's a new experience. But just that passion. And there's someone else, an anonymous person, who it was the burden for one of the guardians, and who's now taken on 3 children, and it's really hard for her. And they had this small piece of land, family land. They went to their family, it had a jondolo on it, and said, please, can we give it to this person? And they were offered money for it, and said, no, I want to give it to this person, no cost, and generously gave it to that person. And I could carry on, but I think it's stories like that we need to hear, just in terms of hope. And tonight, we're going to be looking at the hope building model, and we're going to be journeying with that. And part of that journey will be through 5 bearers of hope and their stories tonight. They just happen to be our staff, amazing staff sitting over there. And it's a really exciting journey. And we're going to be using examples from Bambai, just because that is where this hope building model with action is. That's where we kind of put it into practice. But I pray that it's a lot more for each of you. I pray that how you when you go to the shops, when you encounter someone in need, whatever it may be, that this may give you just a different flavor in terms of how you approach that. Maybe you'll be able to have a different impact as a result. And so it covers all those variety. If you're here with nothing to do with the Bambai Project, it's still, we pray that it'll speak into your situation where you are. So before we go through the hope building model, I just want to give a brief overview of Bambai Project. So some of you know quite a bit about it, some of you it's new, and I think it's good for everyone, because often one doesn't know all the various things that are going on. So it'll just be a quick overview, and see with the first slide. So really, what is our vision as the Bambai Project? And it's really, I'm going to start with what we do, how we do it as a hope building model, which I'll get onto. But our dream is for Bambai to be this beacon of hope in South Africa. And it's one of the most disadvantaged, shunned communities in the whole of South Africa. And so this vision of hope, of being a beacon of hope, is so real to us. And we've got this even bigger dream for the powerless, as such as the world would view it, the powerless in Bambai, to impact the powerful with hope. Our starting point in this journey is the transformation of orphans and vulnerable children. And we've got this community-based orphan support model. So it's really different from orphanages. They live with their guardians in the home. And so we want to bring transformation through that. And we just see huge potential to roll out this to the 3 million orphans in South Africa, to actually ensure there is care and support for the orphans. And at the moment, there's some of our kids. We've got 81 children on our very intensive program, and we've got another 75 children who are part of our broader programs. And we don't use the title orphans. So we we have a special name, which is Special Stars for every orphan and vulnerable children, and every orphan vulnerable child. And I'm going to invite Tuli now to chat to us because she's really passionate about impacting these children, and she's going to share with us why that is.
So as it was said that my name is Tuli, and I just want to ask, what could come out from a dark place that's filled with crime, drugs, people killing each other brutally, and no one really caring? Well, I want you to hold your answer. I come from that place, which is not that different compared to back then. I am a flower that bloomed in the desert. I am a flower from Bambai. Well, I cannot say that I had everything that I wanted while growing up, but I can surely say that I had everything that I wanted, especially a family filled with love, food, clothes, and education. I can now say that when love is there, everything else turns blurry, be it poverty, lack, or lack of money. And I remember this one time while doing grade 8 in school, and my school shoe had a hole on the sole. Now, my friends used to laugh at me whenever I sat with my feet up. Funny thing is that I laughed with them as well, because for me, it was never about lack, but it was about my family's love in the little things that they afforded. Now, I'm so grateful to be or have the incredible opportunity of being a part of the Bambai Project, because they are giving children an opportunity to be rooted in love in a way that they wouldn't otherwise have had. And I'm also grateful to have daily opportunities to help these children be rooted in hope and help more flowers blossom in Bambai.
Thanks, Julie. So she gave the image of flowers. We actually have the image of a tree, and it's the roots, trunk, and fruit. So for us, it's the roots, identity, and belonging. For us, this is so crucial because I don't know if you've ever had the situation where you've invested in someone's life who's materially poor and had difficult circumstances, and it just seems like the opportunity's been thrown away, and you can't understand it because often those roots are so weak. And so we have that with our special stars because usually they've been passed, not only have they lost their parents, but often they get passed from guardian to guardian, and it really impacts them. So usually the normal route for a lot of these orphans is that they end up in crime, drugs, teenage pregnancy, drop out of school. And so for us, we focus on the roots as a starting point is really important. So you can see some pictures there. We have our groups every afternoon where there's kind of these circles of belonging. We visit them in their homes, check they're safe, check in terms of where there's abuse happening, all that, and one-on-one mentorship and counseling and play therapy. So that's really important. Then we have the Educating for Life. So it's not just about education. We've got maths, we've got literacy programs, we've got maths club every week, we've got online learning and all those. But for us, the actual Educating for Life, the life skills is even more important. So learning not to tell a lie, not to steal, those type of things. Some haven't learned that ever in their lives. So we really invest, and we've got a young men's group, a young women's group that's also really important in that process. And then the last one is making a contribution, and we feel this is vital, that it's not just that when they get older, they must make a contribution from the youngest one. And our theme this year is Be the Change. So we have even our little ones leading. It's really sweet to see them. They're leading dance, all the bigger ones. And they just feel like they've got purpose and meaning. And it makes such a difference when they are making a contribution. So there's Gutle, and she was leading the church hall, what we call the church hall. It was full of people, and she was leading them in song. So that's really, really important to us. But we find that it's not just when they're in school. So at first, we were focused on that, and we realized actually when they leave school, the challenges increase. And so we do a lot of the same types of programs, but we also have a whole lot of job linkages, job training, some practical skills, small business training that came up COVID. Now we do a combination. We had our RISE business skills. Last year we had carpentry and plumbing and light electrical. Some of you who are in that industry might shake your heads of thinking if they learned it in a few days and were doing each other's houses, it might be quite scary, but they did okay. But it was an excellent experience, and they gained so much through it. Plus we had life skills and dealing with past traumas as part of that. And even simple things like training them when you get your salary, they hadn't thought of this, that you actually must save enough for transport for the month. So simple things like that we take for granted, part of that process. And then our guardians as well. So they often, just imagine, one of the first guardians I met, he was 25 years old. He had 7 orphans that he was looking after, and he was unemployed, male by himself. I don't know how you would feel. Overwhelming. It's not surprising that there's a lot of abuse of God in those situations. So for us, the support of them is so crucial. So we journey with them. SMA is incredible with all the various support groups and training that we have with them. And then we have sewing opportunities to earn income. And then food parcels, we do food vouchers we give, and they work in the gardens. We've got beautiful vegetable gardens, and they work in that to the dignity of earning them as such. So that's really, us as the Bambai Project, what we do. And a lot of that happens because of our amazing staff who live in Bambai and really journey as role models with the kids. So that's so, so crucial. Yeah, and actually many of you who are journeying with them as well. And we see amazing transformed lives. Yes, there's a lot of hardship and there's some struggles along the way, but we celebrate, a lot of change that we are seeing. And that's just a joy. So that's what we do. But really, tonight is about the how. And from when we started Bambai Project, we saw a lot of giving that was handout giving that caused damage in South Africa. Lack of dignity, increased dependence, the apathy, and we're like, how can we do this differently? Really wanting not just to have good intentions and smiles on faces, but how can we actually do that thinking? And it's not easy. And it's not been an easy journey, and it's been a learning. After 10 years, we developed the hope building model. We keep changing it. Actually, 2 weeks ago, we've had a bit of a tweak in it since then, because it's this journey, and it's good. Sometimes it gives you more questions than answers, but yeah, we found it a really, really good journey. So we want to take you through the hope building model, and HOPE, nice and straightforward. Honor, it's about honoring others instead of pity. Outcomes, potential, and empower. So the first one is honor. And I want to just ask you a question. What is poverty? And you just shout out answers. What is poverty? No money, lack. Hunger. Below the breadline. Okay. Use your 2 hands to show a picture of a wealthy person giving to a poor person. Just your 2 hands. How would you just depict it if you had to depict it to someone else? Let's see. Okay. It's like this. Interesting. How's this for a definition of poverty? Poverty is the world telling the poor that they are God-forsaken. A wealthy person will often say that poverty is about lack. And a materially poor person will say the same, but they will also talk about inferiority, about feeling worthless, less than. There are a few items on your table. Which do you think might depict? Just have a look at them and see which might depict honor. I'll tell you just now which it is. We're going to watch a video that's just going to challenge that. A lot of you might have seen it, but hopefully it'll just rejig it in your mind.
Okay, sir.
Morning, how's it going, man?
All right, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. Can I get 40 hours of petrol?
40 hours, good.
Excuse me, ma'am. Where can I find 5 kilometers of rice?
5 kilometers.
Cheers, Sam.
Cheers, Nat. I'll see you in 5 liters.
5 liters?
Those measurements don't really make sense. But does how we measure people make sense? We measure people by the size of their bank accounts, by their clothing, their cars, their jobs. Worth is measured by what people own. Nelson Mandela saw a different measure of worth. It wasn't about what people had on the outside. He saw the inside. He saw equal worth in every human being. He gave worth. As the Bambai Project, our dream is not just for every orphan and vulnerable child to know their worth, but for every South African to see the true worth in each other. And as we do, we discover the worth in ourselves.
Why not change your vision?
Umuntu ngumuntu ngabantu.
Let's see the worth in every person.
Imagine if the whole of South Africa joined in. Imagine if the whole world joined in.
And who knows, by changing the way we see others, we may change the way they see themselves.
And so change the world for good. It starts with me.
It starts with me.
It starts with me.
It starts with me.
It starts with me. It starts with me.
South Africa, let's see the true worth in others. It's worth it.
I remember Judy Tate. Some of you will know her. She's the director of Ananda Seminary and of Kanyiso. They're doing amazing work in developing educators. But she's on our board, and she was telling the story of, here she was. It was when she was the principal of the school, and there was no coach for the hockey match, and there were girls from visiting schools coming. And so she said the person who worked in the tuck shop was actually able to coach, the referee was able to be the referee. So she said, I'll work in the tuck shop for the morning and you go be the referee. She said the disdain with which she was treated working in the tuck shop and how different it was from the usual when she was standing at the side of the hockey field. And it just challenges all our thinking. So not just race, not just material divide, in any way. How is it that we see each other? And for me, this is so important. How we see people matters more than what we say or do. We jump to the saying or doing, but if we don't get the seeing right, it affects how we say and do. And I'm really challenged by that. So now I'm going to introduce Ernest. Ernest is one of our interns, and we met him last year when he joined our RISE Skills Development Program, and he really shone out to us just for his wisdom, his commitment, and just how he approached every situation. So we asked him to join the team, and already we've seen an amazing impact in terms of his impact on the Bambai Project. So Ernest, you were forced to be very independent at a young age. Tell us about it.
Yeah, that's true. From about the age of 11, I was completely by myself, since my mother had to work in the suburb as a domestic worker. She would only come home to visit only on weekends. And if she was working the weekend, I'd visit her after school Friday. She'd sneak me inside just to make sure that no one saw that I was around.
Sure. And then when you were 13, something happened that, your mom passed away, and that really had a huge impact. Tell us about it.
Yeah, it did a lot. Firstly, but the family that my mother was working for, they were very generous when it came to my education. They made sure that my mother never stressed about my education, my school needs. They'd always ask for my year-end school report, my uniform and stationery list, and have it covered. And that was really good, and that was really good what they did, and I really appreciate it. But when we went to inform them about her passing, they were in tears. Their kids wept, talking about how they will miss her, talking about who will help them with their homework, who will play with them. Honestly, for me, hearing that, I was very sad that they knew her way more than I did. And angry as well that they robbed me of my mother's time on earth. I was really sad. And the day I laid my mother to her final resting place, I had everyone in my corner. I had everyone in my corner. I had fathers, I had a mother, I had sisters, brothers. They even exchanged numbers with me to keep contact. The whole village of people, they comforted me, gave me warm hugs, whispering in my ear, "Don't worry, I am here." But after the funeral, everyone went home, and life continued as normal for them. But for me, life continued, life without a mother, without a pillar, without a provider or a friend. I lived completely by myself. No one to dress me up for school, to ask me how my day was. Most of it all, no one to give me a hug and whisper in my ear that everything is going to be okay, my boy. I love you, my boy. Well done, my boy. Everyone just finished.
Sure. And why is working at the Bambai Project so important for you because of that?
Yeah, I believe that God paved this way for me to be part of the Bambai Project. Why I say that, it's because I know how it's like to be without a parent, to be by yourself. And I know what they feel, what they are going through. I don't pity them. I don't see them as less. I don't say awful things to them. I respect them because I know what they are going through. So I love being part of something that young Ernest never had. I love being the part of the Bambai Project because it keeps on giving hope to young Ernest like me. And yeah, that's it.
Thank you. Thank you, Ernest. Sure. Give him a round of applause. It takes courage to share. And I just want to share with you that Ernest is living that honor. So the other day at Game Changers, one of our high school kids started saying something a bit prejudiced against against foreign nationals. And Ernest, you didn't know I was going to say this, in his just loving, calm way, just made it very clear that we are never prejudiced against anyone. And it just changed the whole situation. So you're living that honor, Ernest, and we just thank you. And, you know, his story just highlights how we see others, whether it's people in our home, whether it's people the world would treat as less than. And honor is also about how we give. And it was in 2004, I put the words together in terms of our vision as Bambai Project, what did it look like? And one of the verses, it's we have a dream. And one of the verses says, it's a dream of honor where no one is seen as less than, where there's no giver and receiver, we all give and receive and are blessed. And that's what we call eye-to-eye giving. It's about seeing everyone on the same level. What does that look like? And it's not about it's about getting away from the way we measure people by money and stuff. And it's about measuring by a different measure. Like, how can you put a measure on the perspective that someone gives you? The gift that seeing their generosity when they're in total lack, and you just see that generosity, it does something to you. When you see perseverance, all those various things, those incredible gifts that are given, which don't necessarily have a material value, but yet are invaluable. Two-way giving is an important part for us of eye-to-eye giving, and we try. It's quite hard sometimes, but for example, those of you who are sponsors know that you get a Christmas gift made by the Special Stars, so both can be saying thank you. It's not just one way. On the top right, that's the Clifton boys, Jürgen's here. They came and they helped, but then the Bambai kids were teaching them dancing. So they looked a bit incompetent as well. So it was good to have this exchange, you know, so if you come along to Bambai, you might just get roped into something, some dancing or something like that. But it's more than that. It's about journeying together. It's about going into each other's homes and sharing the journey, sharing each other's lives. And for us, it's really important. We don't always get it right, but we're trying to grow more and more in that. COVID's in some ways taken a step back in that, and now we're really looking to change that. I want to end the H, the honor, with telling a story of an elder relative of mine. And this was actually just before COVID, and we went to a restaurant, and the waitress served us, and it was at the time where we were doing customer service training in this hall of our kids, and we were getting them into restaurants before COVID hit and messed that up. And I knew what it was like for these kids. I knew many of them had never eaten in a restaurant. I knew the challenge for them getting home at night. So I was seeing from that perspective. And at the end, this individual, when they're paying the bill, turned to the person and said, "Do you think you did a good job tonight?" I'm like thinking, what's coming? You cleared away places before other people had finished. Why did you do that? And my heart just sank, and actually I spoke up after that. But it was just this, the way we've been brought up, our mode of thinking can sometimes get in the way of our compassion, this is the way we do things, and our frame of reference, our lens we see the world. And that might be an extreme example, but it does challenge each one of us in terms of how do we let those things, this is the way it should be done, versus this is a person and this is their heart. And in terms of anyone we encounter, whether it's the beggar, whether it's the car guard, whoever it may be, how do we see them? Do we judge them as less than without even realizing it? So what I want you to do in your groups for a couple of minutes is to chat about, in the H, what's the one thing that's impacted you from what you've heard tonight? Or you might give another story related or share a practical thing that this has challenged you on. So just for a few minutes, share that in your one thing from this that's impacted you.
I have to just be honest and say I'm actually very nervous. I used to speak a lot. Some of you here know you were suffered under my speaking in the church. Now it's just my husband who has to suffer under what I'm not getting out there. Well done, darling. Anyway, it's wonderful to be here and to see so many faces that I know. Actually, having always been a Divinals girl, I just know so many of you as a part of my life, seeing at Spa and all of those things. And many of you I don't, but hope to get to know you all. So I'm doing the O from Outcomes, and I'd just like to give you about 20 seconds to just think about the last time you gave to somebody in need and what it looked like, what it felt like. Just think about the last time you did that. Many of you who are involved with the Bambai Project know Lillian Makotla. She unfortunately couldn't be here tonight. But Lillian talks about how in the 90s in Bambai there was a long season of terrible unrest. People were being killed every day. And a large global agency came in and just fed everybody for a very prolonged period of time. And whilst that was helpful, Lillian talks about how it really engendered a lot of apathy and this kind of way of people just waiting for somebody to come in and solve the problems, which sadly we still see a lot of in Bambai today. We know that a lot of help in South Africa comes in the form of handouts. And handouts can be helpful. They really can be what's needed in a situation. But what we really want to stir in your hearts tonight around outcomes is, are we really asking what the outcome of our giving is? It's so easy to climb onto the bandwagon of big campaigns. I think many of us will have been involved in those big kind of Christmas outreaches where there were, a few years back, there was toys. Everybody give toys and this will change the life of a child. And so thousands of toys were bought and millions of rands were poured into every child getting a toy from some very privileged person who swept in and gave them a toy. And this was meant to change somebody's life. But how did it? I wonder how those families really felt. How did that mom and dad feel maybe that the best gift wasn't even coming from them? And what did this really do for children? Now, please, if you did that, I did that. This isn't to knock anyone, but it's just to allow us to take a moment to really question, what does our giving actually do? What does it serve in the long term? We were all struck by COVID 2 years ago, and there was just such an outpouring of generosity to meet the dire need that emerged from that situation. And people who are professionals in the world of giving and outreach will tell you that any prolonged giving that goes beyond 2 or 3 months can cause different types of problems. So I know we get a lot. I'm new at the project. I know that there's always seeking how to do things the best way we can and learning that goes along the way. But I know that after a couple of months, our team implemented getting the guardians to work in the gardens or to sew or to do something around the project to actually earn their voucher as opposed to just getting it, because that really does help to restore dignity. And some were happy to do that and others just went, oh, well, there's free stuff down the road and we'll go there. But we certainly do always ask the question, what is this doing for the long-term story? And then, of course, after a good year, more than a year, of people just rallying to be generous and to give and to hand out food and food parcels, we saw the absolute horror of the unrest. And it was really hard for people to understand, how could this happen after all we've been giving and pouring out? But could that have actually contributed to a sense of apathy and dependency and actually people just looking to who's coming to solve our problem? It's so hard to hear these kind of things because I know that our giving is motivated by good. But sometimes things that feel good aren't actually good, and that's the rub. The reality is that just because we give food or a hamper or a blanket to somebody in need on that day doesn't mean that they'll stop begging the next day or off the streets. And sometimes our giving into the wrong kind of situations is actually helping people to remain comfortable in their poverty. And it's not actually giving opportunity for somebody to want to take charge of changing their situation. So I think it's safe to say that sometimes short-term help can actually cause more damage. It's really important to know that there is short-term handouts that is really, really helpful. Just last month, one of our dear girls who's in high school, her whole house burnt down. Just down to the ground, nothing. They say razed to the ground. I don't understand that, but English is weird. Anyway, that was a really, really good opportunity to work out the short-term needs and to address them. And it's really great when there is a bunch of handouts needed for a short-term solution, and it's clearly communicated what the needs are, and those can be met. But it's not a long-term, eternal, we don't know when this end kind of scenario. Such as maybe somebody who's been on the street begging for years. That isn't likely to shift without something radical changing. We really believe that true development takes place with long-term journeying and understanding what the real needs are. And I'm really sad that tonight we don't have Snare with us, who is the one who really carries the story so well. But we are so fortunate that out of the whole team, she's the one that we do have that's been videoed. She's unwell, and she said she'd come here hobbling and crawling along the ground, but we really felt that she needed to be home and resting. So Snare, give a wave, who knows Snare? Yeah, I mean, Snare's like the glue of the project. She carries such a passion. This passion allows her to know every child, there are 150 children, and more by name, no issues with their academics or their schooling or their health. She just knows. And she seems to have endless energy to love and care for these children. So yeah, she's a hero in our Bambai Project story. Won't you listen to Snare share a little bit about her story?
I'm Snare. My dream was always let there be no more snares. No child should ever have to go through what I've been through. My mother died from breast cancer in 2001 when I was 12. She was sick for a year, and we had to live in a relative chicken shed with the chickens. I had to take care of her and my younger siblings. After she died, things got much worse. We were always hungry, and lots of horrible things happened to us. In the end, I left school to work in a factory. It has been so tough, but I know there are so many more like me. In South Africa alone, there are more than 5 million orphans and vulnerable children. 5 million other snares out there. But in 2007, things changed. God answered my prayers. It was like I saw a ray of hope for the first time in so long. The Bambai Project started, and all 3 of my younger siblings became special stars. They had new uniforms, stationery, their school fees were paid. Just imagine. Each of them had a sponsor, and those sponsors have stuck by them till today. You see, this project is much about relationship as it's about material things. It's about belonging. It's also about a hope and a future. Tabane is now in his 2nd year studying business. He even got distinction in his last exam. And Spay did a business diploma through the project and is working in a life insurance firm. I'm so happy. In my community, most people, they don't have matrics and they're not working. And me, well, a year ago, I became a field worker for the Bambai Project, working with our special stars and rising stars. I want to be part of God answering their prayers.
Snare is fueled by this line that she says, that she believes for a world where there are no more snares. And, tonight it's a night of hope. And I know that it's hard hearing these stories. It's really hard to hear Ernest's story. But what Ernest didn't say at the end is also that, that tribe who was there for his mom's memorial, who vanished the next day, he says Bambai Project is that tribe. It's people who are there for the long-term journey, who are just going to allow children to have that rooted and established love. So on your tables, what do you think it is that speaks to outcomes? Okay, the 4 objects, maybe you aren't sure what the objects are because there's a lot of clutter on the tables now, sorry. There is a plant, there are glasses. So a plant, the glasses we've done, there's a little pair of scissors and a page, and then there's a kiwi fruit, for those of you who are sniffing that. What do you think it is that speaks to long-term outcomes of transformed lives? No. It's the plant. The plants and the trees require care. They require soil and nourishment and time and journeying and growth. And that's what we are all about at Bambai Project. We really believe that building for the future in South Africa has got to look at how we're giving. We have to look at this giving that isn't just a quick fix that can just make us feel good or appease our guilt for a moment, but it's actually intentional and is going to work towards transforming lives. Now, the team does amazing work to transform lives, and many of you here as Hope sponsors and Hope mentors also transform lives. And in this world of transforming lives, there is a spectrum of outcomes. I'm sure you all know about this. And there are, on the one hand, stories that we celebrate deeply, and then on the other hand, there are stories that are deeply disappointing. One of our celebration stories is Spear, who is Snare's sister. You saw her in the video. But she was partnered with, at the age of 11, I think she was only 11, when she met Kate. And Kate, how old were you then? No, I'm joking. But it's been a long, long journey, hasn't it? And we celebrate that she's got this degree and she's doing so well and she's got a great job. And then one of our disappointing stories is one of our mentors who invested really intentionally and hard and financially into one of our special stars. And in his final year of getting a business degree, got into a bad crowd and has completely and utterly blown this opportunity to turn his life around. And those stories are hard to hear. And they really, they can have us kind of going, well, what's the point? What if I get one of those? Then is all of this really for nothing? But these questions are good because they cause us to really grapple and to deal with the mess, because this work is messy. Remember we said hope shines brightest when there's mess around. There's a couple who run an organization in Cape Town, in the Cape Flats, and they work with heavily addicted people and gangs. And they deal with this vast spectrum of outcomes in terms of transformation. And some of the stories they celebrate as long-standing stories where people have really got their way out of this darkness and out of these negative cycles. And yet there are many who don't. They can be doing well for 4 years and then make one bad choice and be back to square one as if nothing ever happened. And it's absolutely heartbreaking. And what stuck with me as I read this man's book is that, when you're working in NPO work or whatever, you want to talk about the outcomes. And how do you talk about these outcomes when so many of them aren't what you hope for? And he got to a place of realizing that he can't control the outcomes, but what he could control was himself. And he could control his ability to love people. And nothing could stop him doing that. And he made peace with the fact that he would continue to love people, and sometimes that would render a good outcome, and sometimes it wouldn't. But he was in charge of what he could do. And I know that at the project, the fuel that keeps us going is that we feel that we can give hope. We can inspire and instill hope in these children. Right now, we're faced with a family in dire need. And for those who don't know, we have 150 kids who come through every week. who we shower with love and lessons and life skills and maths and all sorts. But we have 75 of those on a more intense program where they get a Hope mentor, and they partner with somebody, and they get school uniforms and a whole lot more, really, and access to social worker help from SMA. And this is a dad with 3 children. He's unemployed. And he's doing his best to care for these children, but it's a dire situation. The team came back really upset about this. And the automatic knee-jerk was to just put these kiddies onto the kind of more intense program and make sure that their schooling would be dealt with and that they would be a lot more supported. But they do have a dad, and we usually reserve that place for children with no parents. And so we had to grapple with it and try and look at this dad who right now is in a terrible situation, but in 2 months could have a job. Or potentially, if we offer this complete help, might not have the motivation to get a job. And so we grapple with these things all the time, but in wanting to see lives transformed, sometimes the obvious help is not the best help. And so we've got these kiddies coming in the afternoons, and we've signed up to give some short-term assistance, but we're hoping to get them a job so that there can be a long-term transformed life and family and situation. So what we'd really want to leave you with after this grappling with the outcomes is that we would each of us, be a group of people who actually say, what is the potential impact of the giving that I'm about to do? So what we'd love you to do right now is just chat amongst yourselves again. Hopefully by the end of tonight, you'll be exchanging numbers and best friends. We believe that each and every person has got time, treasure, and talent. We all have either time or treasure or talent to give. Some of us are blessed to have all 3. But what would you consider giving of your time, treasure, and talents that could have a long-term impact? That's what we want you to chat about. How could you give of your time, treasure, or talent in a way that has long-term impact? And that's not necessarily for the Bambai Project. It's in whatever you're doing and whatever you're faced with.
Good evening to you all. So my name is Kevin, and I'm one of the board members of the Bambai Project, and it's awesome just to be sharing with you. I feel very incompetent after Mandy and Nats, who embrace this vision, but we've been working together over the last few weeks, and I'm really excited. I've been asked to talk to help you think about the P for potential. I've spent many years in a school environment, and I was thinking of the story, and I'm not going to give you the whole story, many of you will know it, of the animals that decided to start a school. And so they developed a curriculum, and everybody had to do all the subjects. That was fine, except the duck had to take extra lessons in running, which meant that he started to fail swimming because his feet were too sore. And the squirrel had to take extra lessons in swimming and has actually recently come out of hospital from pneumonia from the time in the water. And the eagle did not enjoy having to climb the tree and always got into trouble by getting to the top in alternate ways. And that is so true of our education system, is it not? We focus on what people are not good at, and we force them into situations where their potential is not identified or realized. And so the question about potential is, how do we see people, particularly those in situations of poverty? Do we see, firstly, their lack, or do we see their potential? If we're honest, we see firstly their lack, and we have to work hard to identify that potential. So, you've only got 2 left. Which one of the items on your table is about seeing potential that may not at first be obvious? The kiwi fruits. Now, most of you are biased because you know what it is. But if you didn't know what it was, it doesn't look very appetizing. But when you cut it open, it bursts forth in color, in flavor, and everything else. How many of you have been to the Royal Natal National Park, the amphitheatre, Cavern Resort, Alpine Heath, Montouzi, Clonati, all those resorts, many of you. But you probably haven't noticed on your way there, you go through a large rural area that is poverty-stricken. There are a number of schools in that area, and there are two high schools not far from each other. Same population going to those schools. One of the schools gets, if they're lucky, 10% pass rate in matric. The other school, consistently 85% or higher in matric. What's the difference? The headmaster of the school doing well saw potential in his staff and in the learners and drew the potential out of them. Nothing changed in terms of the staff or the learners, but the leadership and the vision for potential. And those two schools, same community, same area, totally different results. This is what we need to think about. The P is about choosing what may not be visible, looking for it hard, seeing and unlocking that potential. And tonight I want Smart to come and share. Come and sit with me, Smart. Smart grew up like all of our community in Bambai with, I've got to sit with you, eh? With not a lot in terms of what we might call the materialism. But somebody saw potential in you. Tell us about that.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you.
Before that, Smar is our social worker. She is the backbone of the project in really meeting and changing lives. Now you can tell your story.
Thank you so much. Good evening. Thank you, Fundis. Yes, we were living in one small shack. We were 7 of us. I call that shack my mansion. So I was the last born. On that. We have faced many challenges. We often have the shortage of basic stuff like food. My mother, she was married, but she was divorced. So she was on her own. So she was required to raise these 7 children on her own because the father had another family to take care of. And then on that time, I had a dream that on one day I want to be a doctor. But looking at the situation, it seemed so impossible. And then I've talked to my mother. And then my mother said, no, if you want to be a doctor, it's easy. Do like a doctor, walk like a doctor, and think like a doctor. And then in my mind, I was, how did a doctor walk? And then I created my own thoughts. Then I started to walk like I'm a doctor. So I need to walk like a doctor. I need to think like a doctor. So whenever my mother is coughing, I say, oh, you know what, you must drink water. And then my mother will reply, who said this? Because I'm your doctor. So when my friends look at me and then they started to say, you know what, Ma, you're really crazy now. I enjoy every moment to do this, to walk like a doctor and speak like a doctor. So when I was 12 years, I started to help my mother in her domestic work. The reason why I heard my mother, she was praying, like, our Heavenly Father, give us our daily bread. And I was, this woman is inviting another man. I'm so tired of this man. I don't need that man because the father left. So now he's inviting another man. And then I said that, you know what, Ma, I'm going to help you in your work. So I become a domestic worker at the age of 12 years after school, even on weekend, because I had a vision that one day I need to change the situation. So my mother, she was my inspiration because every day she was motivating me each and every time. I opened let me read I know the plans I have for you. That was a favorite verse that my mother planted in my mind. She planted a hope because what we need to know is to nourish the mind. He says, my child, read this verse. I know the plans I have for you, declared the Lord. They are plans for peace, not for disaster. The plans to give you a future filled with hope. So I am so inspired by those words.
Thank you, Smart. But you didn't become a doctor.
Of course.
So tell us how that happened.
Yes, I did not become a doctor. I'll tell you why. I'm really scared of blood. I'm really scared
Amen,
of souls.
Amen.
And I'm really scared of car accident. Then I realized what else. Then I've observed that I'm a very loving person, and then I like to work with people. Then I started to do correspondence through UNISA. I started to do a national diploma in youth development. I completed it while I was working at phone shop. So while I'm sitting and then I'm sending the customer to different numbers, I have my books on me and studying. After 3 years, I completed that diploma. I saw it's not enough. I need to work with the communities. I started another degree, bachelor's degree in social work. So now I am a doctor of hearts. Amen. I am a doctor of mind. I am a doctor of soul. You see, the work that I wanted to do, I'm still doing it. So I have my high heels because I'm shorter. Whenever I'm going to court, I wear my heels. Then they see the social workers coming because I'll fight for justice for my client. You don't mess with my client because you have me to deal with. So I still have that work. Whenever I'm going to SASA office or court office, I'm still the doctor of soul and the mind because I'm doing a hope in my counseling. I'm giving the hope in their vulnerable, hopeless of special star and their garden. Together, I can make a difference. So it seems impossible until it's done. It's the potential, the power of mind. I thank you.
Amen. So I'm a priest. How does a priest walk? I won't ask some of you to show me. Potential was realized and planted in her, in Sma. And we are seeing the fruit of that. But that's our next letter. The reality, friends, is that we need to change the way we look in situations, looking not at what we see, but what is lying behind it in terms of that potential. We say it's a simple thing to do, but it's very difficult. We're hardwired to see what is face value, and that tells us wrong stories most of the time. In our H model, we talked about wearing those different glasses. In the O, we looked at the long-term outcomes. This now is looking underneath to see that every single person has certain strengths, certain abilities, certain things they offer that we need to draw out of them so that they can be the person that they were created to be. So I want to leave you with a question in your groups just to reflect on. Oh, before that, you would have heard some of those stories. You heard about Xolisa, special stars. She had the opportunity to go to Ananda Seminary and she got 95% for her matric maths. She's now studying civil engineering at UCT. What an amazing story. Another one in a different journey, Cindy was a special star, would get 10% in maths, would come along to Friday maths, and it was hell for her and for those teaching her. Her sponsor, Sheila Roston, said, well, what is the real potential here? Because it's not maths. And discovered her passion and love for sewing. And so turbocharged that and created opportunities for her to learn to sew. And now she's graduated and making things that she is selling. And she's just realizing the potential that was not always there. This is what P for potential means. The difference we can make when we see not the lack, but those hidden things deep inside, like the beauty in your kiwi fruits. That is the challenge for us. So it's a chance for you to tell your stories. In your table, do you have a story about uncovering someone else's real potential? Maybe it's your own story or even a good one you heard from somebody else recently. Let's just share those and encourage one another at this time. I thank you.
Okay, we are landing now with the last letter E. and that is for empower. So you've got a piece of paper on the table and the scissors. Would you please select the cleverest person at the table? You must please make one cut to transform the meaning of that statement. Okay, so we're looking at the E, which is empower. And obviously this is all about helping people to be empowered to solve their own problems. So when we meet people with genuine needs, often the tendency is to just want to jump in and help and solve the problem and sort things out. Many of us in this room, we grew up in environments that taught us to be assertive and to speak up and to solve problems. But this, sadly, is not how many in Bambai and in many impoverished areas were taught to respond to problems and difficulties. So imagine how many of us in this room would feel if we went to the clinic and had to wait there all day, very ill, and potentially not even be seen by anybody by the end of the day. And this is quite, as you all know, this is quite normal. But what's amazing and alarming is that so many in Bambai, I'm speaking about now, don't know that that's okay to complain about. And for us, we just bolster into a situation and jump in and try and, throw toys and solve things. So what we do when we jump in to help the poor is that without realizing we're doing this, is that we actually can be reinforcing a feeling of powerlessness for the people who actually should be helping themselves. We could be eroding belief in themselves by jumping in to help. Sometimes the materially wealthy like to be the saviors, and sometimes that's very convenient for the materially poor. But it doesn't do much good for anybody. The process of solving and owning a problem, even if it's not solved in the best way possible, is often more valuable than somebody else solving it for somebody. Because what happens when somebody is given the ability to believe that they can solve something is that their God-given dignity is restored. They start to believe again that they can have power over their circumstances. If our goal is to be the saviors, then we will jump in to help. But if our goal is to empower, then we will work to empower the person who needs the help. Now, every single Hope Mentor that works with the project we celebrate, and every single Hope Mentor is making a significant difference in the lives of special stars. But because we work with Sinamantla, and we get to hear about this particular Hope Mentor relationship a lot, and we celebrate it. We just love hearing about Sinamantla and Richard. So Sinamantla is just such a delight to have on the team at the project. He is loved by the children and the staff. He asks the most profound questions. When we have staff meetings, we do this part of the meeting called the check-in, where we have to ask a really kind of probing question of one another. We call it the chicken licking. I don't know why. But when it's Sinamantla's turn, things happen. He asks the most profound questions. It's a total gift. So we all just love the way he sees the world. Sinamantla and Richard, would you please come up and join us? Sinamantla, would you please start by just sharing with us the circumstances that led you to the Bambai Project?
Good evening.
I come on the wrong side.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Sinamantla. When I was 13, my mom passed away suddenly. Life was tough. After her death, I experienced lots of anger, sadness, and brokenness. I lost love, and I lost comfort, and I almost lost myself. She left unexpectedly. I couldn't even cook for myself, wash clothes, or do any house chores. She was working very hard to provide a better future for me. The only thing I had when she left are my torn old clothes and a uniform. It was difficult to wake up every morning knowing there's no breakfast, there is no one who will wake me up to prepare something for me on my way to school. Yeah, Bambai is the place known for poverty, teenage pregnancy, and most of the youth are in substance abuse. Life is really tough, even for people who have both parents.
So you're here with Richard today because we celebrate this relationship and so much. But would you just tell us what it is that you appreciate about Richard's way of having helped you?
A lot. Okay. I finally met someone who brought hope to my journey. He played a huge role on impacting my life emotionally and physically. He's my hope mentor. His name is Richard. He reminded me the purpose of living and also provided unconditional love and added hope and brought hope in my life because I lost hope when I lost my mom. She was the only person I had. And I still remember one of the Sundays, he invited me to come to his church. The society was so welcoming, and I became the part of the family. I'm so grateful to have him in my life and also Bambai Project. This kind of a relationship really changed my life. Now I'm happy I'm a staff of Bambai Project. I'm impacting other children's life who are vulnerable and also orphans. And working for the Bambai Project to me is part of giving back.
Sinamandla, I'm not letting you off the hook yet. Okay. Knowing you and knowing how much we laugh, are there any funny stories you can share about your relationship with Richard, or about sometimes maybe you wanted certain things and you didn't get them?
Lots. I can say lots of things. But I remember when my learner's license was about to expire, I told him, and he said he got his license. It's not his learner's, it's mine, so I have to make a plan. Yeah, so here I am. I have a learner's license, which is expiring next year. Hopefully this year, I'll be having my driver's license.
Richard, thank you. I know that you've prepared to share your reflections on this journey and this relationship. Thank you.
Yeah, and unfortunately, he's taken half of my thunder here, so. But I'll give it a go anyway. And if you don't mind, I've got some notes because I'm a bit older than he is, and these have to come off. So I got involved in the Bambai Project. I wish I could remember the exact date, 12, 13 years ago. And not realizing then what an incredible project it was and also what it would mean in my life and what it would do for me going forward. From the start, it was easy. You give a little bit of money, you buy the odd birthday and Christmas present, buy a bag of fruit, and then you think you're the man. You've arrived and you're doing all the good in the world. But as time went on and I started to spend a little bit of time with Sinamandla, I saw this school kid, this young, scared school kid start turning into a young man. And I realized that he needed more than just a school uniform and some stationery and things like that. If he was going to survive, he needed some guidance in life, which he really didn't have up until that stage. The kind of guidance that so many, me included, take for granted, and so many don't get at all, and the kind of guidance that really just helps youngsters navigate their way around this crazy world we live in. So I decided to invest a little more than just money, and I tried to invest a little bit of time and my effort to see if I could make a bit of a difference in his life. So, as he said, first step, of course, I enlisted the help of God, and I took him to church with me, because I thought I'm never going to be able to do this on my own. What a great idea that was. He took to it, he met everybody, he became part of the family. A couple of years ago, he got baptized at St. Margaret's, and he was definitely forming his own relationship and his own path with the Lord. It was really good to see. In fact, to this day, not a Thursday or Friday goes by without me getting a WhatsApp message saying, "Are we going to church?" So, so like he says, it's not all fun and games. It's been testing. There have been times. It's not just about being a protector and a supporter. It's been about teaching him to protect himself and support himself, and that's been quite tough. The old adage of tough love has come into it a few times, and that's not an easy road to take with someone who, I think it's different if it's your child, and it's difficult when it's not really. But it's a necessary road. So we've had ups and downs. We've shed a tear or two together, but there's no doubt that both of our lives have been made so much richer for this journey we've shared together. A journey that started with a couple of rand through an incredible program and grew into something so valuable to two totally different lives. Obviously now everyone knows this, but my notes say, for those who don't know this, Sinamanda full circle. He now works for the Bambai Project, and I hear he's quite good at what he does. I'm immensely proud of the young man he's become and the maturity that he's shown against the most challenging of odds. I'm not sure how many other people could have done it. I do know he will continue to do that because we have a deal. So just on the project, that's one of the most amazing things about this Bambai Project is you get involved at a level you want to. There's no expectations. There's no, you got to do this, you got to do that. You get involved and you see where it goes and you see what you want to do. But be warned, you will get, once you get involved and you see what these guys do and the incredible job they do, there's no question you'll be pushed from a higher power to get more and more involved. That's exactly what happened to me. There's no question. It was a definite push to get me out of my comfort zone, and it definitely worked. Thank
you. The golden rule in development is never do for somebody what they can do for themselves. And I think that's what we've seen play out in such a powerful way with Richard and Sinamandla, which is why there's so much mutual enjoyment and friendship. And we really do celebrate that. Thank you. And I know that there's many more of these out there. So when we meet somebody who needs help, the greatest gift we can actually give them is our attention and our belief in them that they have what it takes to solve it, in our curiosity, in our listening, in our confidence that they can actually do something. These are the things that truly count. When we let somebody know that we believe in them to figure it out, something shifts. And yes, some of us might be able to open doors of opportunity, and we may be able to even do a little bit of hand-holding along the way. But the important thing that we want to really establish is that when it comes to empowerment, as much as we can open doors and show the way, the first steps have to be taken by the person who needs the help. There has to be a person who wants this next step more than we want it, because otherwise something's gone horribly wrong. This year we've been exploring the most incredible theme called Be the Change. In fact, Sinamandla was the one who put that to the vote. And Be the Change has really been igniting throughout the project with everybody. The high school children decided that we wanted to give them an opportunity to give themselves a new name, and they decided to call themselves the Game Changers, which is just brilliant for a year of being the change. And even the little ones are on board now. And what we really are wanting to see is that each and every person who is in the project, as special stars, as rising stars, as guardians, and as everybody who are friends and supporters of Bambai, just understands to a greater degree that they can be the change. We really hope that tonight there's been some shifts of thinking that will go way beyond here in terms of being the change. But last week we had a whole lot of fun with the little kids, just exploring this Be the Change with them in really light-hearted and non-threatening ways. We don't want to load responsibility on these little ones who already have so much on their shoulders. But we got them to talk about what they carry, what their gifts are. And there's some actual pictures up there. This is delightful. So there's a few things going on there, but we got some kids who said, no, they're good at singing. They have a gift of singing. And so we spoke about how if they were to arrive home and see that somebody's sad or anxious, they could maybe sing a song to change the environment or change the atmosphere. We had some who said that they feel like their superpower is to care. So there's a little massage thing going on there. Smar was her best day at work this year. And we just said, maybe one day you get home and you can see your guardian is burdened and she's walking with her shoulders over, and maybe you could just offer to give her a little massage or rub her feet or make her a cup of tea. But, just like going, you already have that thing inside of your heart. How can you use that to be the change? Obviously, you see the whole heap of boys there. They said that their superpower was strength. And so they said that they could teach other kids how to kick balls and how to climb. And if they see somebody struggling, holding something heavy, they can offer to help to carry that, and hopefully they'll do that at wherever they see that happening at school or wherever. And then there's a little one dancing over there. She was teaching them all the moves, and we just said, that can also change an environment if needed. They could offer to lead a dance at school or anything like that. But the point is, we're really trying to establish this belief in these children that they have the ability to change things around them. We've got a dear friend here. Gugu, wave your hand. Gugu Radebe at the back there, who works at the Ananda Seminary. And she's currently doing an incredible course with our high school girls. Remember, I started by saying that in Bambai, there is not this belief that you can complain when something's going wrong. You don't walk into the clinic like many of us would and kind of call the shots. And Gugu does this course called the Gale course, where she's really activating voices. And she's doing that with the high school girls now. But last year, she did it with a bunch of our girls who are school leavers. And it was phenomenal to see, as she led them through this 8-week program, that they realized that they could complain, not just for the sake of complaining, but to see things change. That they were actually allowed to go, this is not okay. That they were allowed to arrive at the clinic and say, what is in that injection you're putting in my arm? That they have a right to ask those questions. And it was incredible to bring them back about a month after the course and hear of the things that these young ladies were doing differently. One young girl had seen a guy running through the township terrorizing people with a gun and shooting into the air, and usually she just would have hidden, but she actually decided to report it. She said, I don't want that happening in my community anymore. I don't have to accept it. And so what I love about Gugu's approach is that she doesn't tell them what to do. She simply helps them to realize what they can do and what they're able to do and what they are allowed to do. I think many in this room are probably like me, where it's an automatic response to just want to jump in and help. But what I've realized through watching Gugu, through watching so much through this project and in other spaces, is that the greatest help is to actually make somebody else a hero. It's how do I stand back and not be the hero in this and let somebody else be the hero. As we've embraced this Be the Change and really seek to help people to know that they have the power to change things, it's been incredible to see people who have been disempowered, who are materially poor, who don't know that they have the ability to change things, to just see them come alive. It's the most incredibly amazing thing to see. It's an honor and a privilege to get to see it. We started the session by changing that statement, I can't to I can. And that's really what this is all about. It's saying this person who says I can't says I can, because we have made them the hero. I want to leave you with a thought, something that absolutely rattled me, that I'm going to rattle you hopefully with now. And then I'd love you to just discuss it amongst yourselves. It's a statement. It says that help can be a form of judgment. Okay, help can be a form of judgment. Won't you discuss that amongst yourselves and anything else that's come up during the E for Empower? Thank you.
The team has decided that we can't move on further without teaching everyone our war cry. Okay, he had a thing with war cries because he had them with Walmart in the US. So he's the W, the A, whatever it is. So anyway, you can do it for me, Steve. Okay, so I've got to ask the team to come up. Tuli's going to lead us. Yeah, maybe the whole team can come up. Everyone can stand. Come on, let's do a leg stretch. We're in the home straight. A few more minutes left. Okay, so Tuli's going to teach everyone.
Stand together, build together, be the change.
All right. 1, 2, 3. Let's go. Stand together, build together, be the change. Woo!
Hope, the kind of hope we've been talking about tonight. It's really messy, but it's powerful. And we believe that it has the potential to impact a community and even a nation. Just now, you've seen the bookmarks in front of you. There's one for each of you to take away. But on the back, you might have thought this is a bit of a large white space. And that's for you to write down what has most impacted you tonight. Maybe it's a quote, maybe it's something in your heart, maybe it's something you want to go out and are challenged to do. Whatever that may look like. But before we do that, I want to just quickly run through in terms of our hope building model. So H, and I'm going to put a question because it's quite nice to put a reflective question. And you can take the bookmarks. They've got that question and you can take it away. So what needs to change for honor? What needs to change in how I see others? And for me, that quote that speaks to me, that poverty is the world telling the poor that they are God-forsaken. So really journeying with that. The O for outcome. Is my giving leading to long-term positive change? Just because it feels good, it doesn't mean it is good. And to really reflect, there's some short-term that is really good, but what is the impact? The P, am I potential? Dr. Smar. I can't quite do the walk like you, Smar. Am I focusing on the lack or the potential in this person or situation? And the final one, E, empower. Who is owning and solving the problem? And that's saying never do for someone what they can do for themselves. And often one does have to be part of solving the problem, but it's a journey with the end goal. And what does that look like? So this is the hope that we want to spread as the Bambai Project. And we've got this bigger vision, which I spoke about at the end, at the beginning, and I'm speaking about it at the end, is the powerless, as the world sees it, in Bambai and in South Africa, impacting the powerful with hope. And that's that real reversal from the powerful impacting the powerless. And we believe this is about change mindsets. And that kind of transformation is needed if we're going to change the future trajectory of our country. And so we're really, really passionate about that. It's not easy, but it's something we're really passionate about. And tonight has been a part of that for us. And you've heard the incredible stories from our staff, just sharing those stories of heartache, but also stories of hope. And while they've mentioned the Bambai Project, it's really been about them. And I'm sure you're just so aware of the courage and the resilience and the wisdom in them, and that they are being hope bearers in Bambai and in other countries. But I can tell you that it wasn't easy for them standing up tonight or sitting down, as the case may be. And can I ask you all to give them a big round of applause? And behind the scenes, Mia and Zama have been amazing. So Zama has come on board as our administrator. Mia is continuing. She's not disappearing. She's part-time. Yes, Don, she is part-time, just in case you didn't know that. But Zama, a lot of people haven't met you, so do you want to stand up, give a big wave? Woo! So she's going to be taking over the admin at BambaiProject.co.za. Email address, but both will be, we're going to work through towards a seamless transition. But we're just working out who's doing what. But Zama actually is full-time and works in our project office and is there on a Tuesday morning and a Friday afternoon, often in Bambai. But other times you can find her there or us working in our office through those doors. So we'd love to interact with you. So it's easy to sit in this and think, wow, I'm challenged, I want to do something. But you walk out those doors and kind of life hits you and it all goes out the window. So what I want to ask is two things now. Firstly, for you to write, what is that thing that's impacted you? And to write it on the bookmark. And then we're also going to hand out some paper and we'd love some feedback. If there's something about tonight, if it's encouraging, if it's a challenge, if it's something you want to question, we'd love to hear that. So we're going to give a few minutes just to write on your bookmarks and to pop that on paper. That's okay. There's going to be an orange bucket. It's going to be at the back table over there, and we'd really love your feedback because it helps us. We love to learn and grow. So as we draw to a close this evening, just before I hand over to Tuli to close us, I just want to thank you for journeying with us tonight. And we'd love to engage with you further. And it may be in any form. Maybe you want to engage differently to how you are now. Maybe you haven't been involved and would like to find out more, whether it's sponsoring a child, relationally. We've got the opportunity that's just financial, because sometimes people can't do. I mean, look at Richard and you think, wow, that's amazing. And also Hope Mentors, sometimes when they're younger, it doesn't afford those opportunities necessarily. So we welcome, there's a range in terms of involvement. But you might want to find out about sponsoring, giving of your time, talents, treasure, whatever that may look like. Perhaps it's on the thought leadership side. Maybe there are things you want to grapple with that we've mentioned tonight. We just love that. We really want to grow in that and be speaking and challenging mindsets in our nation, because we believe just as transforming lives of orphans and vulnerable children, it's transforming minds in our country, challenging minds. And that's part of what our goal is as well as the Bambai Project. So we'd love to engage with you, and our email address, you can do either mandy@bambaiproject.co.za, admin@bambaiproject.co.za, but we'd love to connect in with you. I'm going to hand over to Tuli to finish us off. Thank you, Tuli.
Okay, so thank you so much for joining us tonight. As we close, I would like you to join me in saying a quote from the 2030 National Development Plan document. Okay, so that is it. So I would like us to all say it together, because we are a people. Okay, so I'm going to count to 3 so that we speak together. 1, 2, 3. We are a people who have come together and shared extraordinarily to remake our society. We live the rainbow. Thank you so much. So that hits home. It's kind of like personal, that we are a people. And could we be part of living the rainbow, especially across the material divide? It's not easy, but as you go out, please remember, hope is being able to see that there is light despite all of the darkness. That light and all of the darkness. Okay, so as we look and see the difference by having that light, that is hope. And despite all of the darkness, but we see that there is hope. And we invite you to join us on this journey of building hope in our nation. Let's be the change. Yes, thank you so much. Before we leave, I would like us to close our eyes and say a prayer. We can all close our eyes. Lord God, you are the creator and giver of hope. Would you implant the seeds of hope in every heart tonight, that they may take root and flourish? And Lord, from that hope, would you grow courage to see those treated as less than differently, courage to give differently, and courage to be a part of spreading that hope in our nation. In Jesus' name, amen.